All right, good evening. We're going to open up the June 2nd, 2020 meeting. We'll have the, before we get started, let me read the deal out and then we'll start. All interested parties are invited to be heard during the public comments and public hearings portion of the meeting. Due to the current state of emergency regarding COVID-19, City Hall is closed to the public. However, the city requests the public to call or email comments and or questions to 407-554-7118 or citizens@ocoee.org. I will have the invocation by myself. We'll have pledge of allegiance by Commissioner Firstner and roll call after that. Please stand. Our Heavenly Father, we come to you tonight to ask for your blessings upon us as we come on this meeting to run these city business and city things we do. We also ask you to please be aware and pray for the families of Gerald Floyd and all the family members and the protesters as we do about this sad time in our history. We hope that everybody understands that we're all supposed to be amongst each other with peace and love. Let's hope that stays that way and keeps moving towards that as we all try to understand the feelings of other people and move forward. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Commissioner Brinson?
Here.
Commissioner Wilson? Here. Mayor Johnson?
Here.
Commissioner Firstner? Here. Commissioner Oliver?
Here.
All right, we have 1:43 seconds left for the public to call in on this first part.
Mayor, you want to move forward with the proclamations?
Yes. I don't have the proclamation. The only proclamation tonight is for the small cities. We're hanging that out in the lobby, putting it in public display in the lobby. All right, we can go ahead with the presentation. Also, presentation for by Finance Director Roberts for utility billing. Come forward.
Good evening. This will be very brief. I only have a couple of slides, but there's data, so I thought it'd be best to put the data up there for you to see. So prior to the COVID-19 pandemic and the order to stay at home, the city had in place for our utility billing and collections, and those utility bills which became late, we would charge late fees of $10 per month. We would suspend accounts that were 2 months in arrears. We would terminate accounts that were 3 months in arrears. We offered an online payment solution. They would be able to, and they still can, pay by credit card, and the fee for that was 2.95%. That's very similar to any convenience fee that we all pay when we use our credit cards for other transactions that we do. In addition, for those people who became late and in arrears, we would often extend a payment plan of up to 6 months to recover their account, bring the account back into good standing. Once the pandemic hit and we realized that so many people were displaced from their jobs and were unable to make their monthly payments or make their monthly payments timely, we began waiving late fees. In May, we waived about $18,000 in late fees, so it's revenue that we did not collect. No accounts have been suspended or terminated since March, so we have about 16,000 total accounts. 515 accounts are in arrears. 94 of those are irrigation-only accounts. The amount in arrears is about $116,452. $25,000 of the arrears is irrigation only. Convenience fees have been absorbed by the city, so we continue to allow our customers, our citizens, to pay using their credit card online. But to encourage them to do so, because we were not opening the lobby, we took the decision to waive those fees. The city is paying those fees. They're not abolished, but the city's doing that. Those fees have been about $24,000. It's about $9,870 per month. Excuse me, $9,870 per month prior to COVID, prior to the action. They are up by 35%, so $13,000 roughly a month. Last month, we received 4,200 payments via the check-free online payment service. We have encouraged our citizens to use other payment methods, which include the drop boxes. As you're aware, we put a new drop box in the lobby, to mail in their payments, to pay online, to pay by phone, and we have always offered auto draft if they choose to do that, and we have encouraged them to set up those services if they did not do that before. We are also in negotiations currently with MoneyGram and Amscot. It's not as quick as we would like to put these things in place. I anticipate I'll be bringing one or both of those agreements back to you at the end of the month. We're negotiating their fees. We found that the fees they were charging prior to the pandemic were much lower than the fees they want to charge today, so we are still negotiating those fees. So we have come tonight to ask for, to ask for Commission's input into how we should proceed with our utility bills. Late fees, when should we reinstate those late fees? Account suspensions and terminations, when should the city reinstate those? And convenience fees, when should the city stop absorbing those fees and start passing those fees back on to our customers? Our recommendation for your consideration, we would like to reinstate the late fees in the June bills. The fees can be credited back. For those people who are behind, and we'll talk about a payment plan as one of the suggestions, if the payment plan is met and they remain current, those fees can be credited back, but we would like to start reinstating them. The objective of the fee is to encourage people to pay timely, obviously, and to not let their utility bills go behind. We would like to begin suspensions for those accounts that become 2 months or more in arrears. We'd like to begin suspensions in July, but that will give us time to set up payment plans for those who are in arrears already. So it's going to take a while to catch up to all of the accounts that are behind. No suspensions or terminations if they establish a plan and they follow the plan. So not to worry if you are behind in your bill and you've just gotten back to work, come in and talk with us. We'll put you on a payment plan. We'll allow you to, the payment plan generally would include making your monthly payment that's due plus a portion of your amount that's in arrears. And as long as you comply, we will not suspend or terminate your service. We currently offer 6 months to repay your amounts that are in arrears. We'd like to extend that to 9 months. We feel that asking someone who's been under financial hardship for these past 3 months to come up with one and a half monthly payment would be a little bit of a burden, so we'd like to extend that and give them an additional 9 months. This will depend on how far in arrears they are. We'd like to reinstate convenience fees immediately for those who do not mail or drop off or use one of the other services, payment services that do not require convenience fees. We are among multiple cities who do pass the convenience fee on to the customer. I know I pay by credit card and I pay the convenience fee. I'm not local. So those are our recommendations. We're looking for some suggestion, recommendation, some input from the commission this evening, giving us direction on how you would like to see us proceed.
All right, commissioners, anybody want to make comments?
This is a question for you. You said that there were was it over 500 residential accounts and about 93 or 95 irrigation accounts?
94 are irrigation accounts, it's 515.
515?
515. And this was as of last week. We did not rerun those numbers before coming here today, but we didn't expect them to change too much.
I think the recommendation that you guys are making seems to be reasonable in light of what's happening, in light of the financial strains that people are feeling right now. The recommendation, based on what I heard, seems to be pretty reasonable. So I'll stand behind your recommendation.
Any other comments?
I'll be happy to say something. I do like the 9 months, the extended payment plan. I mean, most of you know I'm a social worker by day. And, I mean, we're seeing that folks are having difficulty. I wish they would pay something, because when the bill gets so high, you don't pay anything, it becomes a bill that you cannot manage. Okay, so, I mean, I would love to see the payment plans, and they have to adhere to them, because, I mean, we're not in a position to be able to give the water away,
Correct.
but because that's a financial burden to all of our other taxpayers. But we do need to stress to the individual that they need to pay something. So I think it's reasonable. You said that what you wanted to do, the suspensions would start in July. When
Correct.
is the June bill due? I'm looking at Kathy, I don't know, do you?
The 9th.
The 9th? And late on the 16th. Do you think that's not enough notice to put the folks on, because we're already the 2nd? Is that too short a period to put people on notice that this is what's going to happen the 16th versus going into July and saying the July bill? We realize folks are suffering right now. I mean, we've all read the news, but I wonder if we waited till July to implement, instead of the June, giving them notice, because if it's the 9th and the 16th, you're really only giving about, 10 business days notice? Where I think maybe by then, unemployment may start coming in if they're not getting it, and they may be able to get on a normal pattern.
We thought July, because with the numbers of accounts that are in arrears, to process those payment plans and set those payment plans up is going to take time. And since we have to restrict the numbers of people into the lobby, that means they're going to have to apply via email or make an appointment to come in or wait online. I expect that when we announce that we're going to be doing this, we are going to see more people trying to come in and visit with us, as you would expect, to try to set up those plans. I thought the July timeframe would give us enough time to get all of those individuals, and we would put out some communication that would encourage them to do so more quickly, with the deadline being with the July bill. That way, we can process everything we need to process and put into the system.
I'm sorry, I think I misunderstood. Where did the June come in then? Because I was getting confused. Are we?
Oh, no, I didn't want to start doing anything, suspensions or terminations until July.
So they would get till July to
So-
make payment plan. They would get through
Correct.
June, the bill, but the payment plan, we will not do any terminations until the July bill.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Correct. So you have all the way through till the July bill to set up your payment plan with us.
Okay, no, I'm sorry, I misunderstood. I thought it was June, I thought it was, when I was reading here,
We want to,
reinstatement late fees in June bill.
we want to reinstate late fees, but no terminations and no cutoffs in June. We won't start doing that until July.
I personally feel as though by doing it all, I know it's costing money, but July, all we're doing is adding misery on top of misery, because it's a $10 fee, and let's say your water bill, I don't know, we're very frugal in our house sometimes, it might be $25, so now you've jumped it to $35. I mean, you've already created an issue. I personally would like to see it all start in July.
You'd like
I
to
know
see-
that we're going to lose some money, but I think we have to be considerate to our residents.
Understood.
Okay, that's my opinion.
I agree with Commissioner Wilson. And I also agree with the city, and we have to, we can't keep carrying these fees and these charges because water is not free. What mechanism are we going to use to notify people?
We, probably social media. When the bills go out, we can put notification with our bills. So there are multiple ways we can begin immediately to notify what our intention is, what our plan is.
And will this be to the everyone within the municipality or to the delinquent account holders?
I think that it's easier for us to disseminate the information to everyone in the municipality, to try to identify those specific and hand stuff, mailers and things like that would be difficult. And using social media, everyone's going to be notified anyway if we're posting information on social media.
Okay, and these accounts, these 515 resident accounts, are there any business accounts as also?
These were all residential accounts.
Are there any business accounts that fall into?
Were they? How many? Do you have an idea? Handful. Just a handful? My intention would be that this 9-month payment plan would be extended to our residential customers. Now, the commission can guide me otherwise, but my intention was for this payment plan, this reinstatement, well, the payment plan specifically for residential customers.
And as Commissioner Wilson stated, a lot of our residents are just getting back to work, if they are getting back to work. Some of the businesses out there are opening up, but they're opening up in phases, and they're just starting that. So having a financial burden, an additional financial burden, even though it's something they're using, thrust upon them is tough, but I think it's, we have to do something. We can't keep carrying that load. But I'm concerned about how they are getting the information.
Mm-hmm.
So if they don't get it, and then the X date comes, and now we're charging them more. So that will be my only concern with the notification process.
Would you be more comfortable if we followed Commissioner Wilson's approach and delayed the fees until July, which allows us even longer to continue to disseminate the information? We're going to begin doing this again on your July bill. Come in and make a payment arrangement with us before your July bill. We could arrange with Al and his team to disseminate the information on a regular basis so that it's out there, and if they're watching, whatever mechanisms we have available to us.
Yes, and I agree with that, because we have to give it to them, but, we can't keep holding out those fees for the municipality. So yes, I agree with maybe starting in July. I don't know what the rest of the commission feels on that, but a lot of, even those workers who are going back to work, they're not going back to work to, $60,000 and $70,000 a year job, so they still have to budget whatever they do have coming in as well. So I want to be mindful of that. So that's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Anybody else?
I agree with the staff recommendations. Now, the 550 delinquent accounts, that's all there are in the city?
We are very fortunate. That is all, at the time we ran the report last week, that's all that there were.
That's great, because considering the population.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, yeah.
Is our customers with 2-month balance?
2-month balances.
2 months out. That's pretty good, those numbers, really, considering the population of the city and all. And you'd like to extend it as far into the future as possible, but that's a double-edged sword as well. That's only going to increase these individuals' problems with the amount they're going to have to pay back in the future. So I think the timeline is reasonable, and I think that it should be reinstated according to your timeline.
Okay.
All right, do we have to have a motion on this, Scott?
Yeah, we do.
All right, do I hear a motion?
Yeah, I do have, Mayor, I have one more question about the 9-month period.
Okay.
If there's an account that goes beyond, the city set the payment plan up for the 9-month period, so we're looking at April, May 2021, and they go beyond that and they still have not satisfied the debt beyond 9 months. Are there any, with any of those fees that we waive come back, or I know that's kind of compounded, but again, what is the plan beyond 9 months if someone does not live up to the agreement?
It should be sufficient time to repay. That's going to be very difficult to address, because as it stands, we would suspend their account until they brought their account current, or we would terminate, which means we would have some households possibly without services. There's no, we don't have anything in place currently that addresses what happens if you fail to meet, other than we terminate. And we wouldn't allow it to get to the 9 months. I mean, we would know earlier on that you failed to make your payment. When you fail to make your payment, whatever that payment plan requires, you would be in default of that payment agreement, which would then trigger a suspension of the account. I don't anticipate we'll have many of those. What I would do is bring that to city leadership, Mr. Frank and Mr. Shadricks, and consult with how we would want to handle those individuals before we took an action, because those are going to have to be considered on an individual basis. What are their circumstances? You know, is this someone who's had payment problems prior to the event, right? So if you're a habitual late payer and now you failed to meet your payment plan, perhaps we're not as compassionate as we might be for someone who has always paid faithfully, not had a habitual problem, and has found themselves in a particularly difficult circumstance. We would probably deal with that on an individual basis.
Individually. Yes, that makes sense.
I would like, I'm sorry, make a motion?
Go ahead.
I would like to make a motion, but the only exception change is that to begin the late fees with the July bill and the 9-month, agreeable to the 9-month payment plan. And as again, reinstate all fees effective July.
All right, motion made by Commissioner Wilson. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Oliver. Any more comments?
Does that incorporate everything that we were?
I have one question.
Your per staff recommendation, except for the reinstatement of late fees, July instead of June.
Correct.
Okay.
So,
The question I have is any of these fall under the category for reimbursement under the COVID-19 program?
These do not fall under.
Okay.
All right. No more comments? Let's vote. Aye. Everybody's sitting in different places now. All right.
Aye.
Everybody signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. All right, thank you very much. All right, fiscal year 2019 audit results and CAFR by Tammy Campbell with McDermott Davis.
Good evening. I'm here to present the results of the 2019 fiscal year annual audit. A few financial highlights first. The general fund balance increased $4 million to $23.4 million. The unassigned fund balance, which is the amount the city can use at its own discretion, was $16.8 million, or about 38% of general fund expenditures. And that represents a healthy balance. Governmental best practices recommend a minimum of somewhere between 12 and 25% for that unassigned number. So your number at 38% represents a good savings there in that general fund. The capital projects fund did have large decreases during the year. However, this represents the city spending down those bond proceeds that were received in prior fiscal years, using those funds on those capital projects. The water and wastewater fund did increase net position about $3 million in 2019. These increases were primarily in charges for services, as well as some increased investment income due to the market conditions during 2019. Looking at the audit reports, our audit opinion was an unmodified opinion or a clean opinion, the best type of opinion that you can get. For 2019, the city was subject to a federal single audit as a result of the FEMA grant activity. This resulted in us doing some additional compliance and testing procedures over those grant funds used and how they were spent to make sure they were spent in accordance with those grant requirements. And all of this testing noted no issues of internal controls, so the internal controls we looked at as part of the audit were operating effectively and efficiently, and we had no comments for improvement to those internal controls that we tested. The 2018 CAFR was submitted to the GFOA for the Certificate of Financial Achievement, and it received that award, and this 2019 CAFR is also being submitted, and we believe it will also receive that prestigious award. And if there are any specific questions, I'd be more than happy to address them.
All right, commissioners, anybody have any questions?
No question, just some comments. As you all probably know, I'm not a big fan of CIFR's, the comprehensive annual financial reports. One, the CIFR's for me, they don't tell me, they don't give me or any elected public officials or the public any, they don't give us any information pertaining to stability, sustainability, or the local finances in the trends as to how our finances going, the trends of them. When you compare the CIFR, which is the minimum state requirements, to external independent audits, you can determine the difference between the two and how comprehensive they are. I know it's used the word comprehensive, but the word comprehensive in comprehensive annual report, financial report, is far from comprehensive when it comes to those two types of reports. So, you know, my thing is I'm always going to be pushing for an external independent audit versus the CIFR. For instance, case in point, when you look at Dixon, Illinois, or you look at Jefferson County, Alabama, the year, this is 2005, Jefferson County, 2004 and 2005, Jefferson County received the same award for their CIFR. So when you look at the CIFR itself, from even a trained eye can look at a CIFR and say, hey, you know what, this is a great report, unless they compared it to an external audit. So now, when you look at 2004 and 2005, or 2005 and 2006 for Jefferson County, Alabama, they received the award for their CIFR. But in 2006, they became the largest investigation of a government agency in 2006, shortly after the CIFR. So I'm just not a fan of a CIFR. I'm not saying that there is no place for a CIFR. There's a place for a CIFR, but I'm still pushing for external independent audit for the city. I think it's okay doing the CIFR because we meet the statutory requirements for the state of Florida. But beyond that, I think that when we want to see where our trends are based on our city, we reach almost 50,000 residents in the city, within the city of Ocoee. Now, that means that if you look at it from a statewide perspective, based on, I think we're about 27,000 square foot of space here with 50,000 residents, that puts us at about a little over 800% over what we should be on a statewide scale. It's about 3,000% nationwide of what we should be. So that means we have the numbers. We're bustling, and I believe that independent audit will show. I don't think it's going to show anything bad. I think it's going to show how we're trending. And I think we're trending in the right direction, but we can only find that information out through an external independent audit and not the CIFR. The CIFR is not going to reveal those facts to us. So that's just my comments on it, and thank you so much for your time and completing this CIFR for us.
All right.
Anybody else? We need to.
Me? Okay. I guess I have a question for you regarding this.
Okay,
This is an independent audit
correct,
by an outside agency.
correct.
So am I getting confused as to what Mr. Oliver is saying? If this is done by an outside agency, this is an audit, not by us, you're auditing our books.
Correct.
So maybe I'm a little confused where that comes in, because I would think by state standards, we're doing exactly what we're supposed to with an independent audit from an outside entity.
Correct. What you have here is the state required under governmental accounting standards, which as a city you fall under. And this is the required annual report that you submit to the state, and that's required under Florida statutes. I believe what Commissioner Oliver is referring to is he's looking for a little more internal type, not necessarily annual financial, but he's looking for more, some sort of report that compared, you know, a 5-year trend. How does the city compare 5 years, or maybe even an operational type audit, that how are you using different facilities to the best of their ability, which would be a separate type of engagement versus this financial report. Does that kind of?
That's true, because again, the CIFR is going to show you all kinds of different types of charts and graphs and different things like that. I mean, the average person that looks at us, even us sitting here, we really can't make sense of a KIFR. We have to take the word of an independent auditor that comes in, or our financial director, to lead us through this right here. But if you actually look at a real internal independent audit as to how money goes from one GL account to another, how it comes in, how it goes from one GL account to a sub-GL account, you can actually follow that. You can actually look at that. Some of them are so comprehensive that the average person can look at it and follow it. KIFR is very hard to follow. So if you don't have a background in finance or accounting, it's very hard to follow a KIFR. Even though we are meeting the minimum state requirements for our finances is concerned, we are meeting the minimum requirements for that. However, but I believe that an internal or external independent audit looking at our internal mechanisms will reveal a lot more to us and give us a lot more of what we're truly capable of financially.
And you seem to be referencing more of an operational type audit versus this
Anybody
financial audit.
One more question. I have just one more question. Are you saying, if I'm correct, 16.8 million are reserves?
As of September 30th, 2019, in the general fund.
No, we're talking about the reserve.
Reserves. That's not reserves. That is reserves.
That's your fund balance, your
That's a very
unassigned fund
healthy-
balance.
That's not reserves. How much is in the reserves? More than 15.
Well, she
The
just,
15 is the unassigned, so that's the amount you can spend at your own discretion. There is,
Total, we asked for the total.
oh, the total was the 23.4
That's right,
in the
you
general
said
fund.
that, okay.
Okay,
23
4
is what we have in total reserves,
in the general
Which is way
fund.
more than what
Which
most
is
people
what-
have.
That's
20
honestly a very healthy reserve.
Yes,
Yes.
23.4, not all of the 23.4 is spendable.
We know that. You have
Okay.
a, you
Okay,
know,
no, but the reason I asked that is because let's just use the hurricane we had. We had to go into reserves to pay for the pickup.
Yes.
And as long as our residents understand that the healthier our reserve is, we have that access when something happens within our community, that we have the ability to come in and to hopefully affect a change. And that was the last change, if I'm correct, was when we had to scramble to get someone to clean up the streets.
Correct.
Yeah.
Mr. Oliver mentioned a few minutes ago that he'd like to see something that spoke to our continuing, our going concern, whether we are
Sustainability and the
sustainable.
trends.
With a 38% fund balance, we are sustainable.
yeah.
If we could sustain, actually, we could probably meet most of our required essential general fund obligations with our fund balance if we had to,
Yeah.
if we had to.
That's what I was saying. I look, did it when you said 15, the total amount is 23 point something, which you have part of that's guaranteed out covered. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. And I will say on that point, once again, thanks to our staff, Rob, and all our finance, Craig, all our directors and everybody else here for the austerity of the budget, what we do and how we operate is because of that. I will tell you that when the storm hit up in Illinois a few years ago, I was up in a city up there, and their damage from the storm was like $8 million. They only had $9 million in the reserve. So you can get caught real quick. So I want to thank the staff and thank all of them for what they do with our finances. We appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
Yes.
All right, we need to vote on this, too. Nope, thank you very much.
right.
Appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, staff report.
I have nothing, Matt.
Okay, commissioners' announcements. Commissioner First,
Not at this time.
Commissioner Wilson.
I'm just going to ask, nothing at this time besides, we need to pull item number 5 off the.
We ain't got there yet.
Well, I just want,
We ain't got there yet.
oh, you want me to tell
I'm
you
sick.
right now?
Huh?
Okay, I'll wait.
We ain't got there yet.
Okay, just want to make sure we pull something off.
Commissioner Brinson,
Nothing at this time.
Commissioner Oliver.
Nothing at this time?
All right, now we're there, Commissioner Brinson.
Hey, I get anxious
What do
here.
you want to pull?
We have to pull item number 5. I am a trustee on the West Orange Healthcare District, and to avoid a conflict, I have already submitted my Form 8B that is necessary, so I will not be voting on item 5, so please pull
Okay.
that and vote separately.
All right. All right. All right, anybody else?
I'd like to pull item number 3.
we need to, let's vote on item number, what was it, 5?
5.
Let's vote on item number 5. Is there a motion to set item number 5? Wait a minute, before I do that, any more pull off just 3? All right, let's vote on everything except 5 and 3.
Mayor, I just want to announce as well, no comments or phone calls have come in.
All right, so we pull in 3, we pull 5. First, let's vote on the rest of them. Item 1, 2 through,
1, 2, 4, 6, 7 through
13.
13.
Do I hear a motion?
I'll be happy to make that motion.
Motion made by Commissioner Wilson. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Who's that first?
Yeah.
Commissioner First. All right, let's vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries with item 3 and 5 held out. All right, let's go with 3, then we'll get to 5 too.
Item number 3 is something that we approved at our last meeting concerning the additional funding for the budget amendment for the police department. There was some questions about that. We had $103,000 that they were asking for to do certified mailing for folks that failed to pay the traffic tickets or for the red light camera tickets. And here, I see here that there was some additional funding that came in due to a crossing guard contract that was able to be put towards that. And now they're asking for $42,074. Is that correct? That's correct. Okay, so I'm just going to assume that had we not gotten these extra funding, that this $103,000 would have been, this is what they would have been asking for the certified mailing, had we not gotten those additional funds?
No,
No.
Craig.
Okay, this one's working. Yes, that's correct, Commissioner. At the time that this originally came forward, they weren't sure what the crossing guard contract was going to have in excess because they didn't know if school was going to be out for the rest of the year. And then, since school's out for the rest of the year, we checked on the contract and we only pay them on days that they deploy people. So when they did the calculations for the rest of the year with the school year and not having to use the crossing guards, there was enough money to fund that.
So I guess it's safe to assume that they needed $103,000 to send out the
No, I
certified
think there was, and we did a little check earlier too. So there was, I think, in arrears there were $21,000 that may have been from last year, and then there was additional $20,000 for this year. So one of the things we need to keep in mind on the expenditure side, we took a quick look, remembering that State Road 50 we had 3 additional cameras put in right before the State Road 50 construction came in, and then they required us to turn those cameras off while the work was being done. So what we're seeing is the additional volume from those cameras being turned on, and then we're also seeing the additional revenue from those cameras being turned on too, and I think the number was about $300,000. So that additional $20,000 to $40,000, whatever it is, in the certified mail costs is for the generation of, to date, I guess they're anticipating an additional $300,000.
So not all of it was for certified mailing?
There was one, it was in arrears. I think there were some certified, they're paying in arrears, and when they got it caught up, they realized from last year there were still some unpaid certified mail out there, and then they're anticipating. So it's what needs to be paid, and they're anticipating to get us through to the end of the year, the way I understand it.
I'm still concerned about that amount. I just don't see, for one, why we're sending certified mail when we don't have to. The original budget asked for $103,000 in certified mail. We were asked to, or staff was asked to come back, get with the police department to determine what that number really looks like. Based on what I'm seeing here, that's not giving me a breakdown as to what that number really looks like without being certified mail. Because again, there is no statutory requirements to state that it has to be certified mail.
Okay, maybe the city attorney can talk, because I keep seeing references to state law that you must do that. So
Yeah, I think,
I'm just going by what I'm being told and actually looking at the writing from the state statute that says you must do that. So I may be missing something. I'm not sure. Perhaps the city attorney can address that.
yeah, I think we discussed this at the last meeting. While the statute may not require, in order to be enforceable from the court perspective, the requirement that the items be sent certified mail. Without doing that, then it lessens the effectiveness. I believe that's the approach the police department is taking on it.
Again, so they're making a determination that they want to send them certified as opposed to.
I don't think it's a determination made by the police department. I think that is the standard of practice that they've seen, that those cases are only effective when the notice is sent by certified mail.
Well, I've contacted the county and the city, Orlando, and when Popka was doing it, they wasn't sending out certified letters. I'm just saying that if we don't have to do it, again, I don't think that takes away from the effectiveness of it. It's a letter. If you get a letter to go to court and it's not certified, that doesn't mean you don't have to show up to go to court. I'm just saying that if there's any way for us to save tax dollars without sending out certified mail, I'm hoping and praying that that's what we would do, as opposed to sending out a letter certified, making it look official because it's certified. I don't think that's going to take away from the effectiveness of it.
All right, we'll take a look at it. We'll see what's required and what's happening in other jurisdictions.
Sorry. Simon's behind you.
Hey, I'm sorry, I snuck in behind you. So the Mark Blundell Safety Act, it's Florida Statute, Chapter 316-00083. It does have a requirement that the first notification be sent by first-class mail. The second one, the traffic citation that gets issued, has to be sent by certified mail. It is listed in Florida statute that it is a requirement that we have to do it that way.
What statute is that?
It is the Mark Blundell Traffic Safety Act. It's Florida Statute 316.0083. I believe there's an attachment to the item that actually details, it has the statute in there exactly as the verbiage is listed in the statutes.
It's in the,
Okay. I read 317, 18, and 19 concerning this as well. Okay.
All right.
I'll put that.
Anything else on that?
So in other words, other cities that are doing this, they're doing this against this statute.
We are following the statute and
Okay.
on the best advice of our attorney, who has told us this is the best practice to follow that rule.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. That's, you through with that? I hear a motion for that, item 3.
I'll be happy to make that motion. Motion to approve item 3.
All right, motion made by Commissioner Wilson, here, second.
Second.
Second by, who was that? Commissioner, I'm sorry. Commissioner First. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
All right. Number 5, pull because we have a conflict of vote, so I need a motion from somebody, please.
I make a motion to approve item 5,
Do I hear a
consent
second?
agenda.
I'll second it.
Seconded by Commissioner Brinson. This is approval of an interlocal agreement between the West Orange Healthcare District and the City of Ocoee for the West Orange Traffic Activation Master Plan. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
With Commissioner Wilson abstaining.
I'm
Form-
sorry.
form-
You
with
did
form-
without the vote of Commissioner Wilson, who abstained.
Thank you.
There you go. Okey-doke. Now, move to item 14. Request for variance, Chris property, 1286 Dusty Pine Drive. Zoning manager, Gallagher.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. Keel Gajadar for the record. The item in front of you tonight is a request for a variance at 1286 Dusty Pine Drive. The request for the variance is for the side yard setback for a fence. The property is located in the Forest Lake Estates subdivision, which is west of Clark Road, east of Ocoee Road, north of Clark and Ocoee. Right here's property within the subdivision here. The subdivision itself has 278 single-family homes. So the applicant's lot is adjacent to the side yard of the lot to the rear. There is currently an existing fence that was originally installed without a permit, and it does not meet the side yard setback. So to give a better view, here's an aerial of the property. This is the subject property here, the existing fence as it sits right now, and the property to the rear. As you can see, the front of this property is to the rear of the subject property, and the fence comes out a little bit further than the front of the home. This is a depiction of the site survey. So in the dark blue is the current location of the existing fence, which is 10 feet from the property line. And light green is where, per code, it's supposed to be located, which is 20 feet from property line. Now, most of the time in subdivisions, there's a rear-to-rear corner lots, but because this is a rear-to-side, it's required to go down to 20 feet. If it was rear-to-rear, they would be allowed to have a fence at 15 feet from the property line, typically in subdivisions. Some pictures to give a better idea of the fence in relation to the rear property. So here is the subject property with the fence, and here is the property that's the rear, the home to the rear. So the applicant is requesting to install a 6-foot high privacy fence 10 feet from the side property line versus the required 20 feet minimum per the code. Per Ocoee Land Development Code, a variance must demonstrate 4 criteria, and based on that, staff does not find that the request is supportable. The item went to Planning and Zoning in March, and from that, there was a recommended denial of the request. However, that motion failed with a 2-2 vote. And based on that, you're able to come up with your own judgment on that, and I can entertain any questions. Ms. Crisp, the applicant, is also here as well, and she's going to speak.
Could you go back to the picture of the actual property, please?
Sure.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. Okay. I have a sworn affidavit from the gentleman whose house you see behind me that has no problem whatsoever with my fence. And my fence has been there, it's just shy of being there for 3 years. I had it approved through the HOA, which I guess they didn't know their ordinance. All I'm asking is that my fence be allowed to stay there. The gentleman behind me has no problem. When you come around the curve, it doesn't obstruct anybody's view, and I've had no complaints whatsoever on my fence. And that's all I'm asking for, is that it's allowed to be where it's at.
Well, that's two of the things that is pertaining to what usually the problem is, that there is being able to see in line of sight and the neighbor. So I don't have a problem with both of them. But I know the staff, like I said.
May I see the affidavit?
You certainly can.
Could you go to the next picture, please, Phil?
Sorry.
Could you go to the next picture?
Sure.
Sorry. So it doesn't impede anyone going around that first curve?
No, ma'am. I have pictures on my phone
And I can go to the aerial.
that you can see that it does not.
Because it kind of goes out into, swings out into a curve.
Mm-hmm.
You said the fence has been there for about 3 years now?
Yes, it's just shy of being there for 3
Did
years.
you have a company put it in, or you put it in
Yes,
yourself?
I did.
They pulled the permit,
They did not pay for a permit.
they did not pull the permit, okay.
Do we need to enter that into the public record, Scott?
We do,
Huh?
we do.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you say your fence has been there approximately 3 years or so?
It will be, in a few months, it'll be 3 years.
I know we had a similar case. When did we, was this in March when this came to our
I
attention?
believe it was around March, could be.
Yes.
And this by way of code enforcement or a complaint?
I
Code
believe
enforcement.
Code enforcement, the fence was installed in the incorrect location. He was required to move it to the proper location. However, he applied for a variance, and you guys approved a 3-foot variance from what was, what the code
Was
required.
this the runway?
Sorry?
Was this the gentleman with, no, it was a different.
Yes.
You're talking about the one that's.
Yes, it is the gentleman with the track. You wanted to
Yeah,
create a.
Right.
Okay, you wanted the,
Yeah, you wanted to,
This is the same property?
The
No.
hurdle
No, it
track.
is not.
He was a different person that was
Yes.
exercising,
Yes.
Same.
Yes.
but a neighbor. or-
Right. No, he's in the front. I'm all the way in the very back of the subdivision. That's the last street in
Yeah.
our subdivision.
Okay, we remember, yeah.
So
He needed to do that.
traffic-wise, we don't get that much traffic back there.
right, well, I think what we're looking at is obstruction of view when you turn in the corner, and then if the neighbors are in
No,
disagreement.
as you
Oh.
see, none of my neighbors have any complaints, and there is no obstruction when you round that corner.
Matter of fact, I look at that house every Saturday and Sunday because I look across from the
The golf course.
10th hole, and you can see right there, both his cars are parked in that driveway. You can always see, it's loose forges, I think.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Well, that's
So
loose next
I
to.
see both
Yes,
his
Mr.
cars are parked
That's
there.
why he abstained.
You can see right down that line of sight without any problem, so.
Right.
I don't have a problem with it. I mean, I know, the only question I asked is, when you put that, they said you didn't have a permit. Is that, who did that, fence company?
Yes, sir.
Were you supposed to pull a permit, or they were?
I guess they were. I didn't pay attention.
Yeah,
Because I'm
Typically the-
guilty as,
yeah.
Typically,
Okay.
contractors pull the permit.
I
yeah.
would like to see the permit
I did,
be processed, if that's, whatever determination's made tonight.
right. I did get a permit.
There is a permit, and
Which
unfortunately,
is-
because of the code, we are not able to approve that
That's
permit.
been going on
Yeah.
for a while.
All right. Anybody? Do we need a motion on this, Rick Scott?
We do.
Does anybody want to make a motion?
Yeah, well, also because it's up in my district. I don't see a problem with it unless someone else does. So I'd like to make that motion that we approve allowing this fence to stay, is that 10
10 feet from the
10
property.
feet from the property line, right?
I'll second that if you add the pending, the permit gets approved.
All right. motion.
Mayor, before you vote on the motion, just want to share that we did not receive any other public comments by email or phone.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Scott.
All right, motion made by Commissioner Branson to go with the favor of the applicant.
Approval of the variance.
Yeah, seconded by Commissioner Wilson. Any more comments?
The only thing I want, can I add that about the permit? Or is that not
With the
appropriate?
approval of the variance, it would be
It
approved for
automatically
the permit.
approved,
Okay.
I think.
Permit.
All right. Any more comments? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Yes, ma'am, appreciate it. Thank you. Item number 15, preliminary final subdivision plan and development agreement for Prairie Lake Plan Unit Development Townhomes. Developer Service Director, Mike Ruber.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. The property is located on the northeast corner of the intersection of 80 Mims and Clark Road. It is over 13 acres. It's land owned by the city of Ocoee. We have a contract for purchase from Meritage Homes. This is the final process in the step of government authority approvals. This is a preliminary and final subdivision plan. The property is heavily wooded. There would be a 3-acre, a little over 3-acre piece left out along Clark Road, which would be adjacent to this property owner. Those both pieces would still be zoned commercial. This is part of the PUD. It's part of the Prairie Lake PUD, which this PUD donated, dedicated the right-of-way for Clark Road and constructed the first 2 lanes So the proposal before you, this preliminary and final subdivision plan, the end result is they'll receive a site permit and begin constructing a townhome development of 78 units. When we came through for the initial revision to the plan unit development, which initially offered 125,000 square feet of commercial for these 13 acres, we amended it to introduce the approved townhomes and other tracts that haven't been built, moved them into this tract. They're approved for 80 units. After the engineering was said and done, they're able to fit 78 units. There's a mixture of a 6-unit building and a 4-unit building, which will make up the 78. The exterior units, you can see, are 24-foot wide. The interior units are 20. Minimum living space on all of them are 1,500 square feet. The internal streets will be private. It'll be developed in one phase. Some unique aspects of this development is the entrance to it will be located directly across the Prairie Lake Reserve Townhome community. There is a pedestrian access to the rear, which kind of creates that mixed-use aspect of the development where the residents can walk over to the commercial, similar to what we have on Ocoee Poplar Road with the Dunkin' Donuts. You have the strip in the front, the residential in the back. You can access it through pedestrian gate. As part of the Prairie Lake PUD, the original developer had to dedicate this land to the rear to create the extension of the Ocoee Vista Parkway, which would provide access to a parcel to the east, which is not a part of the Prairie Lake PUD. It's its own parcel. It was, until a couple of years ago, it was in Orange County. As part of the development plan, the applicant developer will construct that portion of road along the rear and create a cul-de-sac to end it. And as such time as the future parcel to the east develops, over here, you can see this track line runs all the way back to that parcel. If this ever comes in for a development plan, they will develop the rest of the road and tie it in at this point. The subdivision has 2 really common open space areas. The common open space has a pavilion and recreation equipment on this side near the entrance, and then there's a second, more passive entrance, open common space park on this side. There is going to be a fence, a gate, sort of like we have at the Arbor's Apartments, provide a secondary emergency access for the fire department. They'll be able to go through this gate and enter the community. The community will have along the pond and along the common open space, it'll have a decorative fence, columns with brick, which will tie into the entranceway that announces the entrance to the neighborhood. It will have a precast wall on this west side adjacent to the commercial to create that buffering between residential and commercial. Here's a landscape plan. You can see the amenity area. This is the more passive area that people can use. They show us the playground equipment, meeting space. The 4-unit, that's a elevation of the 4-unit building. This is an elevation of the 6-unit building. It'll be connecting to City of Ocoee water and sewer, as well as the extension of the road. Just to kind of give another idea, our fire station is located on this blue piece over there. Clark Road is 4 lanes. It tapers down to 2 lanes beyond Ocoee Vista Parkway. And as such time as we widen Clark Road, it would pick up from sort of the fire station location going north to Clerk on Ocoee. So we do have 4 lanes coming through. Going back to the tract, again, it was afforded the opportunity of 125,000 square feet of commercial. At such time as either the remnant piece the city owns that will be commercial, or this piece owned by Silvestri comes in, we will evaluate the trips based off of those commercial uses. Overall development intensity, townhome development is sort of a de minimis use compared to the large amount of 50,000 square foot commercial building you could have had there. With that, I'll entertain any questions.
All right, Commissioner.
Is there any allowance, Mike, for transportation enhancements? Namely, signalization there in front of the fire station where that comes out?
That distance will be too close for signalization.
Okay, that's gonna be the main entrance to this development.
So Ocoee Vista Parkway will be the entrance for the Prairie Lake Reserve. Directly across will be this subdivision, and then this is already contemplated in this PUD to have the road extension to this property. This parcel will use this, that's why it was dedicated as a public road track to the city. And then there's also an ability to connect to this road, Log Wagon or Wagon Wheel, I forget the name of it. So that development in the future will have 2 access points, but one of them will be this main access point.
They'll have one over 80 members too eventually. Won't they cross the road?
Well, no, they will not, that's why we had this track. That parcel will not have a access point across the railroad track.
So there'll be 2 accesses to the subdivision. Have they planned for sidewalks along both of those access points?
Are you talking about this future subdivision or the one we're reviewing tonight?
The actual one we're referring to?
Yes, they'll have sidewalks
yes.
on the road. Yeah, it'll be a normal right-of-way. Yeah, there's already, they'll have the sidewalks and then they'll extend the road. Yes, yes.
Okay. So for every entrance, there will be a sidewalk that would allow you to walk the...
Yes, the one tonight will have one entrance. It'll have an emergency secondary gated entrance, but the one entrance will be sidewalk.
Okay.
The commercial tracks in the future, they have this existing sidewalk on Clark Road.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, one last question that I have is, you said in the track to the, I guess that's to the
East?
the east of it?
Scott.
Yeah. You said they would be responsible for developing the road?
Yes, as part of the plan you see here, the road ends at this point. They're going to extend the right-of-way all the way down and create a cul-de-sac for the time being until such time as the road can be extended to a future development.
And that future developer will be responsible for
Correct, the rest of the road.
All right, I'm on,
I have one question.
okay.
Oh, were you gonna make I'm sorry, no.
No, go ahead, I'm gonna open the public hearing where we, in case,
I just have one question. You said it was a private road. Is it gated or is it just private roads?
Internal is private. The Ocoee Vista Parkway is public. So
Right,
this,
but I'm just saying, is this townhome,
this townhome is private.
will that be gated?
Yes.
Or, because we know across the street is not gated, but it's private roads.
it is gated, isn't it?
Across the street at the,
Isn't it gated?
across the street? No, those.
Oh, you mean the one on the other side,
On the other
west
side
side?
of the street, they're private roads, but it's not
Yes,
gated.
there's not a requirement to gate it. If it is private roads, that's up to the
Right, that's what I'm
development
asking. Is this
manager.
gated or not?
This is, no, not gated?
You're not gated, so private road's not gated, just as across the street. Okay, that's fine.
All right, all right, I apologize, I'm gonna open this public hearing for anybody in the public wanting to make a comment, come forward. State your name.
Good evening. My name is Bill Mackey. I'm a landscape architect. I work with the Daily Design Group. Our address is 913 North Pennsylvania Ave in Winter Park, Florida. We've worked with staff closely on this project. We've read the staff report, and we agree with everything. I'm just here to answer any questions you may have.
Okay. All right, thank you.
And Mayor,
I should have done that beforehand, sorry.
I apologize.
And Mayor, I recall now, you can see this island, we created the ability, if they do gate it in the future, to have that ability to turn around, so, sure.
All right.
Hello, I'm Jeff Stalder. I'm with Meritage Homes. And if you need my address, it is 5337 Millennia Lakes Boulevard, Suite 235, Orlando, Florida, 32839. And I'm here as a representative of the developer. So if
Okay,
you have any
thank you.
questions.
All right, anybody have any more questions? I put the cart in front of the horse that time, sorry about that. All right, let's see. We got two preliminary final subdivision plan. I'm gonna close the public hearing, bring it back to the dais. I need a motion first. You gonna read anything, Scott?
No, did we have anything?
We got 3
Any
minutes. We were supposed to start a while ago. You got a time on it?
And yes, just announcing there were no calls and no emails that were received.
All right. You got something to read, Scott?
Nope.
No reading. All right, we need a motion for preliminary final subdivision plan first.
I'll make a motion.
All right, motion made by Commissioner Oliver. Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Commissioner Brinson. No more comments on that. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Aye. Carries unanimously. All right, now we need a motion for item B, development agreement. It's still not a public hearing.
And that development agreement just stipulates the
All right,
requirement to
we don't
construct
need
the
to do
road.
this one then.
No,
We need to vote. No
No,
public
we
hearing.
need to vote, but I need a motion.
Before we make a motion, I do have a question about the development side of it. We talked about there's two entrances we talked about, right? There's the emergency entrance, and there's the main entrance to the subdivision. When you start development and you actually start building some of the homes, or start building actually the build out there, and you have construction vehicles coming in and out, will you be using that emergency entrance
No.
as a construction entrance, or will they be going through the neighborhoods?
No, we would be going off of Clark Road onto, Ocoee Vista Boulevard, and we would access the site most likely through our main entrance. Because the road at the cul-de-sac is not constructed at this time. It'll be constructed. It'll be easier to access the site where the main entrance is, as that's where the boulevard currently stops.
So you'll have residents that will already be moved in while you're still constructing the rest of it?
Yeah, I mean, we'll come in through Ocoee Boulevard, come in our main entrance, we'll have a construction entrance, which, by, code of Ocoee, with rock and everything else to prevent sediment getting on the road. We'll have the road swept as needed. We'll have a full SWIP in place. We'll also have an outside vendor making sure that all of our SWIP is in place and per code. And then I'm also getting those calls to make sure that our contractor's doing the right thing.
so what will happen, you have the site development will all be done before they get the first building CO'd. So what happens is, then it goes to phase 2 is, let's say you build these units first.
Correct.
The site work's done, we're gonna have to really work and get the district commissioner involved to see how the rest of the contract, how the rest of these buildings are gonna work in relation to the vertical building
Correct.
construction. We're having issues in other subdivisions, so we really need to look at which buildings come in and how they get finalized with people moving in, because how that interacts with the rest of the site from here on, until they build out the
Yeah,
last
that's
building.
definitely gonna be a concern.
Well, the internal will be one phase,
Right.
but the buildings will not be.
Right.
Correct.
They'll do, a 4 and a 6, get it CO'd, try to move people in, and they'll still be building buildings. We need to work at a good plan on how that's gonna function, so we don't have an issue as we do in a similar subdivision.
Commissioner,
Yeah,
your issue in the other neighborhood is they're doing site development work at the same time they're doing vertical.
Correct.
Here, they're doing all of the site development work at once, and then they'll start doing the vertical. The complaints you're
So
getting.
a lot of the, when you start going vertical, all that be done as far as the construction vehicles, they won't be interacting with residential vehicles and commercial, or regular vehicles.
Right, you're not getting complaints about the vehicles coming in to do the vertical construction.
Yeah.
You're getting complaints about the development.
We
the
are
site
getting
development.
complaints coming in at 6 a.m. and having to pass by some of those residences.
Right,
So we want to
absolutely.
try to eliminate that
I just
here.
don't want us to repeat the same thing
Yes.
with this
No,
development as we have with other developments.
Yeah, I've not worked on a site where we were doing both. That's prairie building, and most organizations don't allow that. So we'll have the whole site infrastructure put in first, and then I will physically turn that over to the home builder, and then they will sequence how they choose to do the construction. I would think, based on this, they'd probably work from the back up, but that's up to them.
Aren't you doing the one up at the golf course?
Yes, sir.
Go look at that. They're doing everything pre anybody being done, all site work.
We'll have a plan when we get to the pre-construction meeting on how that's gonna look. We'll have a plan on how that,
Good.
where the concrete dump station is, where the construction trailer is, and
Yep.
how that interacts with the people. Because if you build from the back to the front, you're gonna have residents taking occupancy in the back, and they're gonna have to keep driving through it nonstop.
Absolutely.
So yes.
So I'm glad
So
that that's
our-
been
that's
a
our
consideration.
concern Is, yes.
Okay, good.
You don't want a repeat performance?
No, not at all. I spent a lot of my days for the past month in a neighborhood conducting traffic.
It's,
Getting Ring doorbell pictures is pretty
Yeah,
common.
getting wrong Ring doorbell videos.
it is very
Day and
challenging.
night.
It is a very big challenge.
All right. Did we get
Just recommendation for the development agreement, that's, I mean, you gotta
a
vote.
recommendation for the development agreement? I need a motion, right? Did we do the motion yet?
Yeah.
We did?
We have not had a motion yet.
Huh?
Have not had a
I
motion.
need a motion.
I'll make the motion.
Motion made by Commissioner Oliver. Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Commissioner Brinson. Any more questions? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed. Motion carries unanimously. All right, thank you very much, guys.
Thank you, sir.
All right, first reading of ordinance is none. Second reading of ordinance, public hearing. Number 16, second reading of ordinance to amend Chapter 51 of the City Code of Ordinances to enact fees pertaining to private providers for building plan reviews and inspections. Development Services Director Ruber.
Okay, this is we're implementing Florida law that changed last year. And present processes in building departments is you submit your building permit for plans review, and then you're issued a permit, and that creates the inspection process. What the Florida law does, it allows an applicant to use a third-party private provider to do plans review and inspection. So you can hire a architecture firm, they're gonna design your building, they'll do the city's plans review for you, and then they can also inspect it. There's a lot of regulations that go with it. The building permit has to have a big warning on there. If you're using a private provider, it releases the city from some of the liability. The statute requires us to come up with a reduced fee because we're not providing all of the plan review. And you can either do the private provider just for plan review, just for inspections, or you can do them for both. And it says we have to reduce fees and provide an administrative fee, and that's defendable. As part of that process, the building official is able to audit a builder or a company that's using a private provider up to 4 times a year to make sure they're doing things correctly. At the end of the day, the building official has to give a certificate of occupancy on a project that he may not have reviewed and inspected. Our fees are in line with many jurisdictions. Some of them adopted fees right away. The counties have economy of scale to use. The way the city looks at it is even if you use a private provider for plans review, we are required to store those plans in perpetuity. We are going to have to do all of the future building permits based off of those potentially, and the same thing with the inspections. So what we're proposing through this ordinance is to amend fees to provide a discount of 50% if you do inspections only. And it's not an inspection fee, it's an administrative fee. So what happens with the inspections is they'll provide us all these documents, soil tests, stress tests, all of the inspections. We've got to house them, we've got to organize them, we got to keep them, we got to understand them. So we still have a lot of work to do, the governments do. It's not just use a private provider and we wipe our hands of it, because we've got to give a certificate of occupancy, and we're going to have that building and the responsibility to discuss that building in perpetuity. So we're providing some reduction of the plans, the permitting fee, the plans review fee if you use a private provider, and we're providing a administrative fee for private provider inspections is what the law states. You have to do an appropriate administrative fee. With that, I'll entertain any questions.
All right, commissioners.
Does that also include the fire plans review, or is that not covered by this?
It is. It also includes fire plans review. Yes.
It is.
All plans review, yes.
So we can farm out the fire department plans review?
We don't farm them out. They have the ability to hire somebody that can do that in
Okay.
place of us.
And the fire department's aware of this?
Yes.
Okay, good.
All right, anybody else?
And then another statutory requirement is at the beginning of December of 2020, the building departments, all building departments have to put on their webpage sort of justifying their fees. They got to put in their revenue expenditures and how all that works out. To date, we've had 2 inquiries about using a private provider. We have had success using a private provider on the city furniture building. To keep that project going really fast, they used a private provider. What they found is it didn't speed up the process for them, but it was the ability to do that. So we're able to work under this scenario.
All right.
you.
City attorney has to read it.
Yeah, this is the title to the ordinance, an ordinance of the City of Ocoee, Florida, amending Chapter 51 of the City of Ocoee Code of Ordinances, creating a new section 128.1 to address the use of private providers for plan review and building inspection services, establishing permit fees and administrative fee where a private provider is utilized, providing for severability, providing for codification, and providing for an effective date.
All right.
Mayor, I just want to announce we didn't receive any calls or emails on this public hearing either.
Okay, thank you very much. No calls? All right, I need a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the ordinance.
Do I hear a second? Motion made by Commissioner Person. Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Commissioner Wilson. Any more comments? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. All right. And we're gonna move down to regular agenda number 17, appointment of 2 members and an alternate member to the Planning and Zoning Commission in accordance with ordinance number 2019-37. City Clerk, Blundell,
I will take that one. Commissioners, you may recall, we revamped the ordinance a couple of years ago to appoint the city commissioner, to appoint the P&Z members. We did a ranking system, which was called for by the ordinance. That same ordinance provides that vacancies to P&Z are appointed by a majority vote of the city commission. So we've received 5 applications for 2 open positions and 1 alternate position. The 2 vacant positions are vacated by Jason Mellon and Brad Lomnick, who are seeking to be reappointed to that. I believe their attendance at the P&Z is in the staff report. And then in addition to those 2, you have applications from Gregory Keithler, Jerry Lowe, and Greg Stewart. It's my understanding that Mr. Keithler and Mr. Stewart would like to address the commission by telephone before you vote.
All right. You got them on the phone?
Hey, is this Greg? Hey, it's Melanie. We are live on the meeting, and I'm going to go ahead and put you on speakerphone as well as put the timer on, and it'll allow you the 3 minutes to address the commission with regards to the appointment to the P&Z commission. Okay, 1 moment. Okay, Mr. Keithler, can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, so you can go ahead and address the commission now. I will go ahead and put the timer on.
Okay. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you this evening, and thank you for the opportunity to be considered for membership on the Planning and Zoning Commission. As several of you know, I previously served for 5 years on the Planning and Zoning Commission, including as the vice chair. I was known for being well prepared for every meeting and for an excellent attendance record. I was also known for asking tough questions, which I think is something that is an important function of the commission. P&Z reviews the last step in reviewing projects and developments before you, the City Commission, consider them. The P&Z is focused on planning and zoning issues alone, whereas your responsibilities are much broader. Therefore, it's incumbent upon P&Z to thoroughly review all matters that come before it so as to make a solid and fully justified recommendation on each proposal to you, the City Commission. Now, in addition to my service to the city on the Planning and Zoning Commission, I've also served as the chair of the Districting Commission, was a member of the Canvassing Board for the last election in Ocoee, and I've been an active citizen of Ocoee for many years, having attended many City Commission meetings, budget meetings, and other events, where I believe all of you have seen and engaged with me at one time or another. I'm also very well acquainted with the city manager, the assistant city manager, the director of development services, and other key members of the city staff. My years of experience on P&Z have made me very well acquainted with the various documents and plans that come before the commission. And my experience in running Air Force bases is directly applicable to those matters because of the similarity in the types and complexity of projects. I've also had years of experience with the executive level in the strategic planning function of one of the world's largest corporations, which reinforced my skill and insight to see beyond the immediate circumstances to the larger implications of plans and projects. I've been president of 2 large HOAs, including one of the largest in Ocoee, Weston Bay, where I remain a member of the Architectural Review Committee and Budget Committee, and I chair the Landscape and Infrastructure Committee. Finally, I have a solid advanced education with a bachelor's degree in mathematics and a master of science degree in operations research, which is a quantitative discipline focused on applying science and mathematics to business and operational decisions. I remain engaged in advanced education by teaching a graduate course in leadership at the University of Arkansas, which is also a very applicable discipline, I believe. I have a strong desire to serve, as evidenced not only by my record of service to Ocoee, but also by my 25 years of service to my country in the part of the Air Force that's now becoming the Space Force. I understand the process here is for each of you to rank the rank order of the candidates. I may be mistaken on that. If you think the qualifications I've laid out here are a good fit, and if you want someone who's committed to work hard, will take the responsibility seriously, and will vigorously scrutinize the matters that come before the Planning and Zoning Commission, I humbly ask you to consider putting me at the top of your list. If you want someone who mainly seeks the distinction of being on the Planning and Zoning Commission, who is easily intimidated by rich developers and high-powered lawyers, and who will serve as a rubber stamp for proposed projects, then I'm not your man, and you should put me at the bottom of your list. Thanks for your consideration.
All right. Thank you very much. Who's next?
Okay, so we have Gary Stewart. I do want to apologize because I think my staff report says Greg, but it is Gary. I will be calling for it.
No answer?
Yeah, I'm not receiving an answer, but he just called and left this number.
Well,
If he's watching and he wants to call in, I can have Andy forward the call to me, but I am contacting the number that he provided, and what's on his application, nobody's answering, and he just literally called and he was on the phone.
we know the name, Gary Stewart.
He called?
He called, but he's not responding to my call to him.
How many calls have you have? 2 or 3?
We just had the two.
Two.
They were the two,
Jerry Lowe's the other one.
Yes, Jerry, I didn't, have a call from him that said he wanted to call in. It was just Gary and Keithler who asked if they can speak.
All right. Scott, can we go ahead?
Yep, you can go ahead.
All right. All right. We have, hold that a minute, I can't make a motion on that. I'm gonna make a motion to appoint, Mellon, reappoint Mellon and Lomneck to the, Planning and Zoning Board. That's the first two we're gonna deal with.
To reappoint, I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion from Mayor to appoint Lomnick and what's this?
Mellon?
Mellon to reappoint them to the Planning and Zoning Board, and seconded by Commissioner Wilson. We have any other comments? No further comments? Let's vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
All right, I'm gonna make another motion. I'm gonna move to put Jerry Lowe, who's, lives in, the south side of town in Cross Creek. He's been after for years to get on it, and I was commissioner there. So Jerry Lowe, and he deals in development and real estate and a lot of things too, so.
That would be the alternate.
Huh?
He would be
As
the alternate,
alternate.
right.
As an alternate. That's the name I turned in, Jerry Lowe. All right.
I'll
Make a motion for that.
Well, I'm not going to be able to, because I want to nominate someone as well.
Well, I mean, all you have to vote no or whatever.
Okay, I'll second that.
Motion made by me and seconded by Commissioner Forster.
Can I make a comment?
Yes, ma'am.
I realize that all three applicants are probably very well qualified
I can't
to
hear.
be there. I'm sorry, should I speak into this?
Yeah.
Okay.
I already hear it. Anyway.
Sorry, the mask does prevent things. I know all three, it appears from the applications and listening to Mr. Kiefler that all three applicants are probably excellent candidates for this position. But when I was looking over the breakdown of districts, it concerned me that I always like to see a variety of folks from different districts. And I was looking in, Mr. Firstner, that there's no one from District 3 on there. So that's where I was tending to think that to create some, again, the south side is sometimes very hard to get folks involved. And I was pleased to see that you had two applicants from District 3. So, I support an applicant from District 3 because I want to see us have the complete city represented in all of our boards.
Yeah, it is hard to find anyone down there.
Well, I'm tickled that you've got two, but it's just, I think all applicants are probably very well qualified.
Yeah.
I want to see someone from a district that's not represented on that board.
It needs to be more spread out.
Because we do have things that come before P and Z that are from all districts.
Did you second that motion?
I think that, I don't know who seconded it. I'd be happy to, but I think Mr. First.
All right. Oh, yeah. Okay. All right.
I just wanted to say something about that.
All right.
So, was there a motion?
If you're making another motion, you got to give the gavel up.
Yeah, that's,
We got to vote on this one first.
Yeah.
so-
well, I got to make
If
a
he makes
motion
a
before
second
we vote
motion,
on
you
this.
vote on the second before the first.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so,
Yeah, give it back.
roll them back down.
All right.
Okay, I would like to make a motion, based on, the qualifications of, Mr. Kiefler and his prior experience on the P and Z board, and of course, his professional background and experience. I make a motion that he, is nominated for the, alternate member for the P and Z board.
Motion made by Commissioner Brinson for Mr. Kiefler. Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Commissioner Oliver. All right. Scott, how do we do the vote? Do the second vote first?
That's right.
All right. All right.
Let me ask a question, just
Okay.
if you don't mind, clarify this, Scott. If I would be voting, if I am in favor of the first motion, I would be voting no
That's right.
to the second motion.
Correct.
Yeah.
Just want to clarify that so we don't
Yeah.
have confusion. Not that we ever get confused, but we,
Let's clarify it, Scott.
Let's
Clarify it
clarify.
on the
All right,
thing.
so the motion is for Keithler to be the alternate. If you are in favor of the first motion, which was Jerry Lowe, you would vote no on this second motion that we're considering first, if that makes sense.
Right.
just want to make sure I,
All right, so I'm gonna call for the vote on the second motion. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Nay.
no.
All right, motion, Mr. Kiefer's, no. All right, all in favor on the first motion for, Jerry Lowe? Aye.
No,
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
I don't think, is that,
All right, motion is, Scott.
All right, so the second motion on Keithler failed 2-3, and the first motion on Jerry Lowe as the alternate passed 3-2.
3-2, all right. All righty. Can you let them know, Melody? All right. All right, Craig, on this next one, are you presenting this?
Yes, sir. Mayor, members of the commission, Craig Shadrick, Assistant City Manager. This item was intended to be a facilitation of a dialogue between you, the commission, city manager, city clerk, city attorney, over our practices moving forward with regard to the COVID pandemic that we're still in, and as it pertains to allowing the public back into commission meetings and how we would approach the advisory board meetings. You know, having done a bit of research on this, there's kind of a dichotomy that's emerged with what other local governments are doing. Some are choosing to wait until the governor's executive orders applying to, and they're provided in your packet, but when they expire, you know, on July 7th, some of the local governments are electing to continue with teleconference meetings and allowing call-ins and keeping their meetings closed. And some have opened them back up on a limited basis. Limited meaning there's a capacity in this auditorium or chambers, and that's based on the social distancing recommendations of the CDC. And our estimate would be we would be able to contain about 20 members of the public in here. That's based on the fire marshal's recommendation if we were to open it back up. So really, you have a couple of options to consider. You can consider moving forward as we have been doing, allowing call-ins until the governor's executive orders expire, or you could elect to open back up on a limited basis. Our recommendation certainly would be that if you did open it back up, we would adhere to the recommended guidelines of 6-foot social distancing. That's consistent with what other local governments who have elected to open their meetings back up to the public have done. And so those are your two options, but we felt like this was a decision that the commission needed to weigh in on. So.
All right.
Why did you look down at me like I'm the one that was going to say something? I'll just say that I've probably had one resident that has expressed some of an interest in being here, but they haven't exactly said that they had a real objection to it. There's a few residents I've had that do
Commissioner,
come. I'm sorry, there's a few residents that do come that do not have a problem with waiting. So again, I tend to think we want the governor's order to expire. Are the boards doing okay with Zoom or GoToMeeting, or I shouldn't specify one brand over another, but that type of meeting?
Well, as of right now, the advisory boards are not meeting in any form. Now, the Planning and Zoning Commission, which is quasi-judicial in their advisory capacity to the commission, has been meeting in the same format that you all have been meeting. But those are the only boards active right now. It's the City Commission and the Planning and Zoning Commission. Our independent
retirement board has been operating very successfully via teleconference. It's very seamless the way they conducted it. So our attorney has, crafted the process that we're currently using. It can still work under his legal opinion moving forward. So that's your one option. Your other option is to open it back up, and we would manage the number of people in the auditorium here and try to ensure that best practices are being followed.
I personally don't see any harm in waiting for the June, this is my personal opinion, till the governor's order expires, and we then address it at that point. I mean, in my opinion.
Well,
That's just my opinion.
yeah, well, I go along with that opinion. I think till we, I think we finish up June like this, with the governor and, yeah, I guess even Orange County. I don't know if Orange County's changed theirs yet or not.
They're still using teleconference.
But if you look at what most times we have here anyway, we don't really have that big a crowd, except for some things we do. But I would go along with Commissioner Wilson's thought process. I'd leave it like it is, and start back in July. I also want to ask another question about the July thing while we're talking about it. I was looking at the calendar. July the 7th is the first meeting, and that's right on the 4th of July weekend. People are going to be doing stuff now, and we usually take that day off. So I wanted to ask everybody. That's the holiday weekend on July the 7th. So
Are there any, do we
I
have
know it.
any hearings?
Huh?
Do we have any, it doesn't look like we have any first readings, so we don't have
No.
any public hearings coming up, correct?
No, it is.
I mean, is there
I
anything-
think there's a lot of people are out now. I think when they start opening up, they're going to do some traveling with their families. I would imagine on the 4th of July.
Unfortunately, that the 7th, the first Tuesday, is also the day of the expiration of the order from the governor.
Yeah.
So, are
And
we,
we open up on the next meeting.
We'll have another meeting in June.
We got another meeting this month.
right, in June?
Yeah.
So are we saying we're gonna, at that second meeting this month, are we going to address this issue, or are we gonna wait until the second meeting in July? Because I think we would kick that, because if we're not gonna have a meeting on the 7th of July, then we can't address it.
I thought we were
Unless
doing
we
that
address it.
tonight.
I think what the
That's what
mayor
we're
was
doing now.
suggesting was just extend
Oh,
what
do
we're
it-
currently
do
doing
it
through
tonight.
June.
I'm going to extend it to our next meeting after the end of June. July the 7th would be the end of the thing, then our next meeting, let's see,
July 21st.
what is it, the 7th? No, where, I'm on the wrong book.
21st.
On the 21st of July will be our first meeting open to the public. We'll open it
Okay.
the 21st, because the thing ends on the 7th.
Okay, that's,
Yeah.
okay.
So we're not canceling the meeting on the 7th, we're just gonna keep it closed? Keep it closed, right?
We'll not have a meeting on the 7th.
Oh, so we wanna cancel the meeting on
Yeah,
the 7th?
that's what I asked. But we got to go back to what he's doing. I just threw that in because it was about throwing it in, but if we can vote on that in a minute.
What you're, let me clarify,
Oh, wow,
sorry,
sorry,
gotta take the mask off, sorry. Clarify what has transpired. You're more than 6 feet, I think, okay.
So do you need us to
Transpired that.
consensus about that?
I'll defer that to the attorney. Vote or consensus?
That we open up, we wait till let me just gather from the conversations that the suggestion was to wait until the governor's order expires.
Right.
Then to start opening on the 21st of
July.
July as with the mandated standards of how many we can have in the room. And you're also looking to cancel the meeting on July 7th.
Right.
And the only question I want to know from our city manager, or assistant city manager is there any item that is pressing that meeting would cause a problem?
I'm not aware of one.
No. Okay, thank you. I just want to clarify our conversation.
All right, so we need a
But, yeah,
motion
let's
on
roll-
the,
Let's roll that all into one motion. So
All
the
right.
motion would be to continue current practices through June and open again on July 21st with modifications,
Right.
cancel the July 7th
Seventh, right.
commission meeting.
All right.
That'd be the motion.
Who wants to make that motion? I can hand it. All right, motion made by Commissioner Firstner. Do I hear a second? Seconded by Commissioner
I'll second that.
Wilson. All right, so everybody understands, that means we'll open this city meetings back up on the 21st of July. But we do have a meeting in,
We haven't voted on it.
what is,
16th?
June
16th, June the 16th.
Okay.
All right, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
I'm going to oppose
I
because I think
oppose.
it's two different issues for me. You have one, whether you have a governor's order that states that it opens up July 7th, that's fine.
Okay.
But I just don't see any reason why we should cancel the meeting on the 7th when it's after the holiday.
Well, it's still the
just
holiday
my-
weekend.
That's just
I'm just
my
giving,
thing.
well,
Because the holiday
we've already
falls on a
voted.
Saturday.
Okay, the
but
motion
it's fine.
carries, 3 to, what did you,
No, I vote
no?
yes.
I figured that. Motion carries carries yes.
3 to 2?
3 to 2. So
That's
we open the meetings up on July 21st.
21st.
Whatever requirements are there from the government.
Can I just ask a question? I know that the no's aren't obligated to answer this, but is it your objection to canceling the meeting, or your objection to the opening up on the
Well,
21st?
we rolled it up and we rolled all of those things up into one motion when I think it should have been two. One should have been to maintain the current status quo as it pertains to the governor's executive order to open up July 7th. And then the other one was to cancel the meeting on the 7th. I'm objecting to canceling the meeting on the 7th. That's my objection.
Well, it's-
Okay.
I think it should have been two different motions.
I'm just trying to
I just want to
figure-
object to one. So I can't, based on the way we rolled it up, I can't approve one and not disapprove the other because it's rolled in one motion. It would have to be two different motions in order for me to properly address my concern.
Do you want us to change it,
I
Scott?
just-
No, I mean, that's fine. It's
Well,
it's
no,
okay the way it is.
Well,
If you don't have to answer, I'm just inquisitive.
No, my thought process is a little different, and that's because of all the things that we're going through right now. We got the COVID-19 still going on, we got protests going on, we got hurricanes going on, we got a lot of things going on between now and July. God only knows what will happen. And us canceling that meeting, I don't think it's prudent for us to.
Well, if we
Even if it's a
have an
long holiday.
emergency,
I was just inquisitive.
No, I understand. It's
We can
just
call the
because it's a
meeting
long
back.
holiday weekend. That's just
well,
my thought process.
we've always seemed to be, if we have an emergency, Rob can call us and we can set up a meeting, an emergency. If we have a storm, especially if we have a storm, if we have that, we can call for an emergency meeting.
Is that objectionable if there was an emergency that arose, that we would be able to call a
Yeah.
special meeting with adequate notice to the public?
Yep.
So that means that we're not traveling out of town, or we're going to be able to chime in telephonically, or some type of, using some type of media to, if we're not in place because we have canceled this meeting.
Well, the meeting, if there was an emergency that arose, I'm sorry. If there was an emergency that arose, I would hope that it would happen sorry, now you're all laughing because of my mask. If emergency arose before that, and again, I'm always inquisitive to why, the thought process. But if an emergency arose, then I would think that hopefully, if it was before that 7th meeting, that Rob or Craig would
Yeah.
make the effort to call us and have a special meeting. Because I think we've had one special meeting in my time here, if I remember correctly. Can't remember what it was for, but we may have had more. But the idea is that we know that we can have that special
Yeah.
meeting if we need to. And that's kind of reassurance to all, should be reassurance to all of us. Sorry.
No, I
Sorry, I don't mean,
No.
the chair leans. That reassurance that we could address an issue that was very important. And that's reassurance to us as commissioners, because my major concern is representing our public.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with the commissioner.
But I also understand that in this time, that a lot of people haven't had a chance, especially employees haven't had a chance to probably take off.
Nope.
And this might be an opportunity for them where they don't have to be here. So I do understand, but I do hope that if we had an emergency issue, that the folks who here would call that.
Yeah, I agree with the Commissioner.
Thank you.
Again, my only concern is that we have the mechanisms in place, that if someone has to go out of town, we decide to go out of town with our families, and something does happen in light of all what's going on right now, that we do have mechanisms that we can chime in, we can Zoom or chat in or phone in or whatever that mechanism may be. The only other concern of that is, again, goes back to what I talked about before. If we don't have anything in place to state that this is how we do things, and there comes to be a vote at that time, then the legalities of that vote comes into question.
We've already went through this and we voted on that.
That's not what I said.
No, but
Time again.
What I said
I'm not
was,
going anywhere this
if
time.
we
You
do
call
have
me.
these, if we don't have it in writing or in place that this is how we do things, when someone is not available, if it's not in writing, then the legalities come into play as to how we voted. Someone could be easily challenged the way we vote
Well-
based on not having this put in some type of ordinance or some type of form of administrative order, if this is how we're going to do it.
Well, Scott, is that not what we went over?
We do have,
We do.
we do have that ability now under the governor's order.
Yeah.
You can vote, you can appear electronically. The issue would be, once that governor's order
It's over.
expires, and we go back to the requirement that you're physically
Yeah.
present, then we would, and we've had situations before where you've called in
No.
for city commission meetings.
I've never called in.
That was
Commissioner
Commissioner Brinson.
Brinson, sorry. Commissioner Brinson called in, so we have that. We have not established a policy other than if you're sick and we follow the Attorney General opinion. We don't have anything besides that Attorney General opinion to govern being absent from a meeting.
Yeah.
All right. Staff, Rob. Comments from citizens, public. We open that up for 3 minutes?
I do have a citizen who would like me to call Reverend Raspberry, and he wants to address COVID-19 and the George Floyd protest.
Set the clock and let him go.
Are you calling him?
Yes.
Okay, I also have a comment someone wrote on sent me a text message. So, I can read it, but I can go first and.
Good evening, Reverend Raspberry. Hi, this is Melanie Civic. I'm calling just to let you know we're live with our commission meeting, and I will be putting you on speakerphone for public comments.
Give me time.
Okay, the timer will be set for 3 minutes, and I'm not sure if you're watching the meeting, but I can advise once the timer goes off. Okay, you're welcome. One moment, I'm going to put you on hold. Mr. Raspberry?
Yes.
Okay, we are able to hear you now. You may address the commission.
All right, good evening, everybody. I first want to give honor to Mayor Rusty Johnson and to the entire commission and everyone in their respective places on this evening. And thank you so much for the opportunity to address the commission during this time. And I just wanted to say that we're living in a time of uncertainty, confusion, and heartache as we face this public health crisis. As we face unprecedented times in the lives of all Americans across our country and our world, I would like to let you know that we have been praying for our nation, our state, and the city of Ocoee. We believe that prayer can make the difference during a time of despair, discouragement, and discontent. While dealing with the coronavirus and the effect that it's having on our community, it saddens me when I hear that more than 100,000 Americans have died from this dreadful disease, and that almost 2 million lives have been infected with this type of COVID-19. My heart is with the family and friends of those who have lost loved ones,
and who have been affected in any way by this dreadful disease. As we look at the recent event that occurred in Minneapolis, Minnesota, we currently find our hearts frustrated by the loss of a person's life at the hands of a police officer. Anytime that a person's life is lost when it could have been saved, it is a deeply concerning issue. Our hope and our prayer during this time is that our community, our country, and our world can view this time as a way to reconcile, reconnect, and revitalize all of our lives to make sure that we all do our part to make this world a better place. As a person filled with faith, I want to remain committed to taking the necessary steps to prevent the spread of COVID-19 and also be more proactive and continue to bring our community closer together through three things. The first would be faith. We all have to have faith as we try to move forward through this pandemic and through this recent tragedy that occurred in our nation. We have to have faith that people of like-mindedness and like-heartedness will come together and be able to move past this dreadful situation. The next thing we have to look at is having hope. Having hope that things will get better in our country. Just like we have hope for the coronavirus vaccination and that this coronavirus will go away, we have to have hope in mankind that we can spread that type of hope and share with one another, knowing that we are all a part of the human race. And then the last point I want to make is love. We have to make sure that we love one another, love our neighbors, and love the community as a whole. I want to make sure that our Ocoee family and community, that even during these challenging times, can make sure that we stick together, stand up for what is right, and make sure that we love one another each and every day. We're going to continue to pray for our nation, state, county, and also for the city of Ocoee during these times. May God continuously bless the city of Ocoee and our nation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Tell them thank you. Rob, did I ask you about the staff thing already? Okay. All right. That's comments from the commissioner. We'll start on this end, Commissioner Oliver.
All right. Just one comment for tonight. And for me, for the past month, I have been working with Audit Park North with issues with traffic and construction vehicles versus regular vehicles going through the main entrance. Some of the things that we have I've met with a lot of residents in Audit Park North. Matter of fact, Lenore Holmes came out to address some of the issues. It was about 3 weeks ago. And some of the main issues are the construction vehicles going through the main entrance, speeding through the neighborhood. There's an incident where a kid almost got hit by a cement truck. There was an incident where a resident almost had a head-on collision with a cement truck. Well, one thing I wanted to say is the city did respond. The police department responded swiftly. Our staff responded very swiftly toward the citizens' complaints toward Lenore, and we have been constantly on the phones, and we've been constantly in communication with Lenore trying to get these issues resolved. However, Lenore has been very slow to answer the call of our city, to answer the call to the residents there, and it has become a nuisance. And I just want to address this because, again, if we ever get the opportunity, we sent them a letter about one issue that we had with them. We sent them a letter, and they have not responded to that situation, but that's another situation. But nonetheless, they have not responded to the citizens in that area in Audit Park North as of yet. When you have a home builder that can build a 2-story home in a matter of a week, and then it takes them 3 weeks to a month to move a trailer in a cement washout in the middle of a neighborhood, and it still hasn't been done yet, I have great pause when it comes to those kind of things. And I think that we need to answer the citizens by taking some type of action to get Lennar's attention, even if it means shutting down their site, just to get their attention to address these issues, or something that we need to do as a leadership body of this city to do so. So again, those are my comments for the night, and I'm hoping that the staff will continue to put some pressure on Lennar to correct these issues where we have vehicles just running through the neighborhoods just rampant right now. And I have been there personally myself over the past month almost every single day. I have turned around cement trucks and say, you got to go through they do have a construction entrance, but they don't know it, and they're ignoring the sign saying that it's not a construction entrance. So we do have some issues there, and I'm just hoping and praying that we can get these issues resolved quickly, and we will continue to work with Lennar Homes to, or at least work with the city to get some pressure on Lennar Homes to get them to move a little more expedient when it comes to these complaints.
Okay, Commissioner Brinson.
Were you going to talk about the high school drive-through?
Do what now?
Were you going to talk about the high school drive-through? Polk High School?
Yeah, you can go ahead too.
Okay.
I'll let you do that. I got some others.
Oh, okay.
I'll let you do it.
I want to start.
You finally dry out?
Yeah, no, but I'm working on it. My feet are almost there. First of all, I want to give kudos to many of Orange County Public Schools. A lot of the schools and the staff at the schools have done wonderful jobs. But specifically and particularly, I want to give kudos to the staff and administration over at Ocoee High School for their drive-through graduation for the 2020 high school graduates. It was phenomenal. Several of the folks on the commission here, the mayor and Commissioner Oliver and myself, was there. It was a rainy day. We stuck it out. We were leading from the front, even though we were a little soggy when we finished. But I think everyone was really happy to see us there, and I think it's wonderful. The graduates this year are not actually doing graduation like they thought they would, but we were out there for them, and I would like to say great job there. I don't know if Commissioner Oliver was going to speak on this, but also Publix. Publix on Silver Star did the same thing. Yeah. Publix on Silver Star gave kudos and a special celebration after hours to their 2020 graduates. So I'd like to thank Publix again for doing that. It was wonderful. Their 2020 graduates, I think they represented 4 or 5 high schools, and so it was across the board. Great. I mean, it's wonderful. Our students, who are truly our future, we're really appreciative of that. So good job, everybody involved in those things. I want to talk about trash collection real quick. There's a lot of people staying at home now, and they're doing a lot of yard work. I would recommend, if you haven't already, give a call to City Hall, and if you have issues or questions regarding your debris. Are you going to speak to that? Yeah. Okay, I'll let the mayor finish up on that, but that's important. Of course, COVID-19 is out there. This is one of those things where we have to do safety first. Safety, safety, safety. We have to wear our mask. We have to exercise social distancing. I know we've been at this for a few months now, and sometimes it can get old, but it may get worse before it gets better. But hopefully what we're going to do is we're going to continue to be safe, wear our mask, and be respectful of others, so that we don't get into a habit and get complacent, and then we find that spike that they've been talking about. Protests. This is something that I am unfortunately have to deal with every day. These protests that's going on, I understand the reasons why. However, there's an element of some of these protests that is criminal in nature. I would recommend that if you do participate in the protest, by all means do so. But if you are engaging in criminal activity, I would hope that there's a law enforcement officer close by you to take you into custody, because they should. You should not be vandalizing and destroying personal or private property simply because. But if you want to protest and exercise your First Amendment rights, by all means do so, but do so in a wise and safe manner. It is important that we not get beyond ourselves because we have not only the COVID-19 and the virus and the economic effects that's across the board that's being addressed with that, but also we have the social distancing, we also have the protests, but also in the news, I know many people probably have heard it, that we have possibly a very active hurricane season. We don't need all of these things piling up on us and people doing things that actually are preventable. So be mindful of that. Last thing I want to say is kudos to the city staff in Ocoee, Florida. I really appreciate what you guys are doing. You're doing a fabulous job. Keep up the good work. You make our jobs a lot easier. At least I know you make mine. I can't speak how you treat everyone else, but you make my job a lot easier. I sometimes come with tough questions, and you're more than happy to meet with me and address them. So again, kudos to the city staff from top to bottom.
Commissioner Wilson.
Yeah. I just want to say one thing here, and I will just announce this. I don't normally check my texts during, or minutes during the meeting. Emails, someone did, and I'll just say this, I think they probably should have called in. They wanted to know how the woman could speak about the variance, but the general public isn't welcome.
I can't hear.
How did we allow regarding the variance, the resident that spoke, how did we allow this person to speak when the general public isn't welcome? And disappointed that you allowed 3 to 4 people enter today from the public, but no citizens.
What?
So that was brought, this is just, I will provide this text to you, but that was, and I just want citizens to know that I normally don't check these during a meeting, so please don't send me texts. Call into the public, to the phone number that we have or the emails, because that's where you're going to have your voice heard. Not always through this, because I am not a email or phone checker.
Oh,
I mean, I don't do a lot.
What?
They wanted to know why we allowed the folks to come in during the public hearing and why we allowed the woman to come in during the variance when we don't allow our citizens to come into the meeting. And so I don't know if that's something anyone wants to address, or that's a public comment. So.
Well, I would say it's under for the safety of the coronavirus deal, and it's only for the applicants, and you only seen one of them here tonight, so, or 2 of them, they were on the same people. But it was set up for the applicants in the back, and that was the only purpose. So as soon as I like having citizens here, but we can do that starting back July the 21st, but the applicants have a chance to come when they're on the agenda.
Okay. No, that was a text sent to me, so I just wanted to put that in the, put it in the minutes, because but I do implore our residents, please, during this time, to please call in or send an email, because not always do I check these items. Okay.
That it?
No, I have one more thing. I know that, I guess you're gonna talk about trash?
Yeah.
I love to talk trash, I'm sorry, but I guess I'll have to.
Well.
I may add something if you don't say what I want, okay?
All right.
Now, I just wanted to bring
I got more phone calls than you did.
I don't know. I don't know. We're not going to
But we
compare
got it-
right
we got it
now.
worked out.
One phone call is too many.
Yeah.
I'll leave it at that,
Well,
okay?
there's a reason.
And I have some concerns, and I
know.
again, it's okay. We'll maybe have a minute.
Well-
I just wanted to bring our residents' attention that it appears that possibly Joy Wright probably put this together, which kudos to Joy Wright, because this is the first year that in my memory that we did not have a Memorial Day program.
Yeah.
And one of our residents brought to my attention that it's on YouTube, it's called Memorial Day 2020. And it was really a very moving video. It showed many things from our previous community center to now. So, I mean, if you hadn't seen the community center before, and now you see where it's gone from the Lakeshore Center. But it also had a lot of folks in it that we remember. There are folks that are still with us. There's some folks that have passed away. And there's some folks that have moved away. And again, it was just very heartwarming to watch that. And I recommend, if anyone has the opportunity, to kind of just go to YouTube, look at it. If you can't see it, I'm sure we can provide it to you by email. But again, it's just a great way to see our community. And I really did I didn't realize after watching it, when I watched it, I realized how much I did miss the Memorial Day program that we have every year. And I'm looking forward to next year that we have it. And again, kudos to the city for putting that out.
What's it called?
It's called Memorial Day 2020, and it goes from 2008 to 2019, so you may see a lot of folks
Yeah.
that you remember. And, I mean, Lester Dabbs was in there.
Yeah.
There was some others that we saw that, again, just people that we know and we enjoy seeing every year. Some that can still fit in their uniforms. Some, I should be careful about that. I think he knows who he is. But it's just the idea. Please, take a chance, look at it. Kind of a neat video and just brings back some good memories. Thank you.
Commissioner Fershner.
On to the next crisis. As you all know, hurricane season started officially yesterday. And the activity in the Gulf and the Caribbean is started already. Just want to remind everybody to go out and prepare now. Don't wait. We've just learned a valuable lesson with the coronavirus that when everyone took notice and went to the stores were depleted very rapidly, and they continued to be depleted of all their supplies. So start now, preparing your homes, preparing your families. Don't wait till the last minute. You should be self-sufficient for approximately 72 hours after the storm. You can't always depend on emergency services, not that they don't want to come help you. It's more of a case that they're totally overwhelmed and they do their best to get to you, but it may not be right away. So you have to be self-sufficient and prepared for it. So take advantage of the sales tax program that's in effect now. I don't know how long it's going to last for, but it doesn't last too long, maybe a week or two. Go out and get your supplies in order and stay safe this year.
Okay. All right. First thing, announcement. City Hall is now open to the public on a limited basis. The public is encouraged to make appointments with city staff for specific needs. Anyone entering City Hall must wear a protective face covering. City boat ramps, parks, and tennis courts are now open to the public as well. View the city's website for more information. All right, real quick on what you were talking about the school. I will say that everybody stood in line for about an hour and 45 minutes out there with the rain. Thank God that guy brought me an umbrella over, you know, after I was wet already, but that was all right. He was nice enough to bring it to me. And it was enjoyable, more than what I thought it would be, even with the rain, to watch these young kids getting to let out a little bit of fun to go through there with the cars and the decorations, and even some parents. One lady danced through there. You remember? She was dancing through. She was really glad to see that child graduate. But it was really fun, and I will say that the school did a good job with it. And Chief Simon's in the back somewhere back there. I'll see her keep walking back and forth. Her and our new deputy chief, what's his last?
Osborne.
Huh?
Osborne.
Yeah, Osborne. He was standing there too in the rain, and Chief Simon. So it was great to see those kids enjoy it. And which was, I said something in the channel too, I think it was when I was there. They got an early start on facing some challenges in their life that'll be happening along the way. So they'll see. Also, on the trash. All right, I and Craig met with the people today. This just went out. If I don't know anybody's here to put it on over the camera, but this trash form that if you didn't get one, call City Hall and we'll make sure you get it. One of the problems is some of the people call in saying things that might not be quite right, and I found out, and you can ask my wife. I have a lot of calls dealing with it, and some of them was I got to verify one of them, and I'll say that it was something about the leaves in the bag and it was wet, so they didn't pick them up. But come to find out, it had concrete in them. So there's a video of the garbage guys dragging the bags across the asphalt trying to get them lifted into the truck. So it wasn't nothing to do with leaves and being wet. And that's some of the things happen. We've got to all realize that this is a challenging thing, and it is working. These guys have went out of their way, and I seen another one today in the picture, Craig. It was a tree that went from that wall to that wall with a tree that they'd cut out. and it was laying half in the road and half in the thing. There are some things we can't do, and we have to, we've all got to adhere to the rules. So this is the rules, and we're gonna work with, and the company's gonna work with them too, that we're gonna pick up things and maybe leave a little more than what the 4 cubic yards is. So people are they're gonna work with them and pick it up, and then we're gonna take pictures and try to inform people that what's gonna happen after you maybe have one of those instances. You might get charged the next time. So it is, I think it's changing. I haven't had the calls this week. I had one from one person, they didn't sweep the street, they said, so that was about the trash that got put out. But you will see on this is a great item that they've come out with from Public Works, and I think Joy might have worked on it, but they're working on some more too that's gonna come out in a couple of weeks. But there was with all people staying home under this thing, and I know for a fact, because we had it, there've been a lot of stuff put out by the road. I think people decided to go ahead and start cleaning out their garages and their other things, so I know I had to, but that's what's gonna happen. So we are in the process, and I know Commissioner Wilson that this is gonna work, and it's without having to raise the rates. But they did agree today that they're gonna go out of their way. They also put another gentleman on that's gonna, if you have a call, Mr. Dion, you call him, he will personally go to their house that day or the next morning and personally work out what the problem is. So you can get his number and name from,
Well, I thought that we were supposed to, I'm sorry, I thought we were supposed to direct them to Public Works, and let
Well-
Public Works be the field, kind of the field agents for the call.
it will be, but it don't always work that way when you
Okay.
call it.
Again, I understand, and I understand this, I think, clarified a lot, that we've
Yeah.
notified residents.
Yeah, it's good.
You know, one thing I noticed, I mean, I drive by where people, looks like they've cleared out rental homes, or they've cleared out homes, and they expect someone to come by and pick up all the trash that they've left along the whole front of their house. Well, this is more than the 4 by,
Yeah.
the 4, what's it, 3 by 6? But, and they also have to realize that the folks who are picking this up, they're human beings. They can't lift a 100-pound bag. I
No.
mean, you physically dragged it out to the road, probably barely, and then we expect someone to be able to pick it up. So we really do need to adhere to the weight limit, because these are folks that are picking it up, and sometimes we can't even pick it up if we've dragged it out to the, not that I've done that, but but we should be very mindful of what 50 pounds is.
Yeah. This person called, and I've talked to them, they've talked to him, I talked to them again, and they have even sent a nice note, I think today or last night, thanking us for that, and they understand now, and they're gonna go along. They did, and they thanked the waste management guy, waste and whatever, and told them that too. I mean, you get ready to clear something out, you just throw it out by the road, you know, we picked it up, so
But 50
things
pounds
gotta
is-
change.
50 pounds is not a lot.
No.
Make 2 bags instead of
Yeah.
1, if it's going to be heavy, so that person can pick it up.
Yeah. All right, I have one, I'm glad the preacher called in and got to talk. We'll still let him pray again at next meeting if he wants to see, you know. Okay, good, yeah. All right, I want to read something here. I don't have good things somebody else said, I just rather read it out. I have been shocked, sickened, and angered by the recent tragic deaths of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and Ahmaud Arbery. I feel compelled to remind Ocoee that now is the time for kindness, love, empathy, and tolerance. We are all equal in God's eyes, and it's time we all started acting like it. It is vital to everything we hope to accomplish here that we try to move forward and be the example to the rest of the world as a community that lives by the golden rule, treating others as we would want to be treated. And I think that's one of the things we all need to look at. And we all know that there are some terrible things that happen in this country, but we need to all work to make sure that doesn't happen and move forward. And once again, appreciate everybody being here. See you on, I think I got everything read out, June the 16th.
No, wait.